Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to a very special edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sitdown. That's right, folks, we are chilling in the comic book corner still, because we are smack dab in the middle of the Seaman's Infinity War countdown. That's right, ripping through all 18 films from the Marvel Cinematic Universe that lead up to Avengers Infinity War. As you can see, I am rocking my big Marvel t-shirt with all of our Avengers smack dab on it, all the big heavy hitters. Maybe I'm hinting at something. First off, of course, as I mentioned in my last post, quick apology. Slight stomach bug kept me from dropping the 14-day out Thor video and yesterday's 13-day out video, which is this one. So you know the deal. Pull up a chair, take a seat. As I hinted with my t-shirt, today we are talking about the film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this point. This is what we were building towards from day one. The very first collection of all of our folks in one place at one time. My all-time favorite Marvel movie. To date, still hasn't changed. It holds it because this movie meant so much to me, to so many people, and it executed and it just delivers, and every time I watch it, it still delivers. That's right, folks. You know what we're talking about. We're talking about the sixth film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it actually is the sixth film. We've been doing this chronologically, so we've shuffled some things up. We are back on track, and pretty much on track with the release dates out until we get to Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which has to slide up. But otherwise, we are now on a path that lines up with the release dates. We are talking today about the Avengers. Oh my gosh. You know how I roll, right? I start with bad, end with good. Ain't no bad to talk about with this movie, man. I don't care. You can come at me any way you want. I'm not saying a darn thing bad about this movie, because this movie, man, it holds a special place for a lot of people. This is one of the most unique, impressive feats that I think has ever happened in cinematic film. Now, granted, there's somebody out there from my home state who loves to talk a lot, but is very silent in his movies. That kind of had a cinematic universe going once. I think if you know who I'm talking about, it's true. But what Marvel did is as impressive as what the good old Kevin Smith pulled off with Silent Bob and Jay and his movies and the kind of cinematic universe he had created. On a very small scale, Marvel blew that scale up big time, baby, and it was so cool, right? I mean, like, we've got the James Bond universe, but those films don't ever really seem to directly connect to each other. Every single one of these films ties into each other, and as you know, watching chronologically, these films are laid out in the perfect way to get to the Avengers. So we're not going to talk any bad. We're not even going to just talk good. We're just going to talk about this movie and what it was for me, experience-wise, what's in the movie. We're just going to tackle it all. And we're going to start, like I said, from the experience. I had maybe my all-time favorite movie-going experience when I went to see this movie. This was, pre-selected seats. This was, back when you had to get in line to go see a movie. And this was, Marvel kind of started this concept I got of going to check out midnight showings on Thursdays. And back then it was really, for a while, it was just the one, and then we got two shows on a Thursday. And now Thursday night's basically opening day. But I remember going and standing in line, man, and the atmosphere was crazy. Like, everybody was talking Avengers. Everybody had it on Marvel stuff. Everyone was jacked up. There was an entire group dressed like all of the Avengers. It was electric, man. It was so special. And it's the reason I love going to Marvel opening nights. Because you walked into that theater and people were going crazy, so loud. Lights went off. Movie came up. Hear a pin drop. When you're supposed to cheer, you cheered. When you're supposed to laugh, you laughed. The crowd just played into the movie so well. That's what the Marvel crowds always do. It's what the DC crowds do. It's what the comic book crowds do. So well, man. They just know what they're supposed to do in the theater, and it was so amazing. I came out of that theater just going, that might be one of the greatest things I've ever seen. It's one of the greatest things I've ever experienced. It was just so special to see all these characters that you'd fallen in love with on the films team up and do something spectacular. And like I said, and then that in that atmosphere, and I wasn't even a crazy cool theater, man. It was just my normal local theater, and it was wild. And for a while, I was like, maybe I think this movie's too good because of what I experienced. So I went again, then I went again, then I went again, and then I went one more time. I saw Avengers 5 times in the theaters, twice in the first day, the Thursday night, and then again on Friday. And then by the end of the weekend, I had already seen it 3 times. Just such a special movie, man. It meant so much to so many comic book fans to see something that we never thought we would see. All of our heroes on screen together. Big props to Joss Whedon for that. And Marvel, obviously, Kevin Feige developing this whole thing. But Joss Whedon, as much as we, want to critically beat on him for what happened with Justice League, and some of the other things he does, some of his jokes sometimes don't really hit. Sometimes he forces too many of them. Rewatching Avengers, thinking about that couple too many, maybe one-liners in this one, but that's the thing. You're so caught up in everything else, you kind of forget that those are happening. They don't really bother you. They all flow naturally. But this movie, Joss Whedon was the right guy, man. I mean, look, I'm a huge Buffy fan, so I've always loved Joss. And what he did with this film was special, man. It was magical. I mean, that shot, man, that pan shot that goes around the circle gives me chills, man. Every hair on my body just stands up on end when we hit that. Joss Whedon deserves a ton of credit. He really created something very special. With this group of people, these actors, it was something that nobody, I think, expected, other than like, hey, Marvel just makes good movies, so this is going to be awesome. And then it happened, and it was just, man, I mean, the look, right? The costumes, all of our characters look their best in this movie, right? I mean, look, Downey is just, boom. I mean, he's still just looking fantastic. Cap, they've reworked the original kind of goofy felt Captain America that he wore when he was selling bonds, and reworked that style into something that's awesome, man. It just popped Captain America. Hulk finally rocking some purple pants, man. The guy hands him purple ones, so that's what he gets to wear those. Black Widow, as great as ScarJo looked in Iron Man 2. Man, this is in the comics too. I've always been a preferable Black Widow short hair fan to the long hair, and with the short haircut, man, God, in the Black Widow costume, man, with the shockers, when those turn on at one point in the movie, she's on top of one of the Chitauri and it turns blue, just pops, man, like nothing we've seen. For her, Hawkeye was cool in this movie. I don't care who you are, man. Jeremy Renner did a great job making Hawkeye, and it felt like there was focus on, let's make Hawkeye look cool. What he does, man, the way his arrows work, just awesome. That was the cool, Thor looks even better, man. Arms exposed. Let's show off them guns. Don't cover them up with like those metal trinket things on his arm. Everybody's just looking their best. The special effects in this movie, both practical and CGI, are spectacular. It all looks like it's happening. To merge all that CGI with all the explosions, the choreography and timing of all that stuff is amazing. Look, the cast, what else did you expect when it came to the cast? I mean, we knew what we were getting with all these characters, and they're all carrying what they've done. Obviously, Tony's, been in 2 movies for Robert Downey as Stark and Iron Man, so he is clearly the most established and kind of polished of everybody. But, Cap is great. Chris Evans just keeps carrying what he did in Captain America. Thor keeps carrying what he did in Thor. Mark Ruffalo shows up. No Ed Norton. And I tell you what, as good as Ed Norton was in that Incredible Hulk movie, thank God it didn't work out, because Mark Ruffalo is beyond brilliant as Hulk. The 2 things with Hulk, one, the CGI effects. Like I said, when we were talking about Ed Norton's, when he's in that chair and starting to turn, we had to cut because the face changes so much. It doesn't look a lot like Ed Norton. That ain't the case, man. When Hulk shows up and Banner's in control and just can turn into Hulk, and he turns back, and, I think Black Widow says, like, now would be a good time to get angry. He's like, or it might have been Stark, maybe. And he goes, that's the thing. Captain America goes, now wouldn't be a terrible time to get angry. And he goes, that's my special, it's like the magic trick, Captain. I'm always angry. That's my secret. I'm always angry. And Ruffalo does it better than anybody, man. If you look at his eyes, it's literally like Hulk is right behind them at all times. And then when he turns into Hulk, the camera stays on his face and you see the face grow into Hulk, and it looks still like Ruffalo. So it's the best version of Hulk we've seen. Just all of it, man. They're bringing, Ruffalo's new, but brought a new dynamic to Hulk. This this quiet, reserved kind of I'm scared to let him out nature that he carries is just so brilliant by Ruffalo. I absolutely love it. Now, characters, director. I just want to talk about this movie. Go right from the top and try to check off as many things as we can. It starts with the open, man. The open's so cool, so creative. You get your title card, and then as you're getting all of your other cards, right, like the Paramounts and all the different things, it's all flowing through the Tesseract on screen. Just these cool things that kind of pop up. We pick up right where we left off with the Thor post-credit scene. Again, why the chronological order works so well. Pick up right there with Eric Selvig talking to Nick Fury in a S.H.I.E.L.D. bunker. All of a sudden, the Tesseract turns on. And in comes... We get our villain right out the gate. Another thing I love about this movie. No wasting time to figure out who the villain is. So many of these Phase 1 movies did kind of like here's our villain for this part of the movie, but this is the big villain. Oh, look over here. No, it's really over here. Loki, front and center right away. One of the things I want to note, though, that I managed to pick up on this was kind of cool, right? Almost everybody in some way is mentioned or shown in that opening sequence. Nick goes to hey, where's Barton? Referring to Hawkeye, and Selvig's like, oh, the Hawk, he's up in his nest, and there's Hawkeye, kind of just chilling. You hear that the Tesseract has gamma radiation. Oh, there's a hint toward Hulk. And then the thing that Tesseract is actually in is the perfect combo of Tony and Cap. The thing that's holding the Tesseract has a red circular bar around it. It kind of looks like Cap's shield, and right smack dab in the middle, the Tesseract is glowing kind of like Tony's chest. It was just something cute that I kind of noticed that oh, look, there's elements of a bunch of the guys all in this first scene. And it's just a great way to start the movie, because you pop in and Loki comes out, and we know he's back, he's alive, as we saw at the post-credit of Thor. And he is words I can't say crazy, man. He is nuts. Just comes in here laying waste to everybody. I'm stealing this Tesseract. Barton comes up to stop him and shows you right away. Again, we don't know that these are Infinity Stones. The actual word Infinity Stone isn't dropped until Thor 2. But we know the Tesseract is one. And the other one is in the scepter that Loki has that was given to him, which we see at the very beginning, man. Again, one of those things you don't put together until the end. At the beginning, we see Loki get the scepter from one of the Chitauri, kind of in the opening, and they reference, right behind them, is the chair that our big bad of all big bads, Thanos, is sitting right there. He's the one that gives Loki the scepter, and the scepter has an Infinity Stone in it. It's the Mind Stone. It allows him to take control. And you see it right away. Hits Barton. Barton goes bad. And it's kind of a rough way for Hawkeye to get his first real big role. He starts off as a bad guy, but he plays it so well. They utilize that concept really well. He does the same thing to Selvig. And now Loki's got his team. And it becomes this big kind of heist. It's a really great sequence to open the film, with a car chase. They get away, and it's oh boy, and boom, the Avengers title card pops up. And then we slowly kind of go and find all of our guys. We start off, again, ScarJo, fantastic as Black Widow, gets so much more to do than Iron Man 2, and she gets to start off with a badass scene, man. She's interrogating some dude while handcuffed and tied to a chair. And the humor in this movie just everywhere. Phone rings, it's Coulson. And he's look, we know where you are, you gotta let her go. And then she kicks the crap out, 4 dudes attached to a chair, beats up everybody. I love it, man. She gets up, she's walking out, she's on the phone with Coulson, she grabs her shoes off the ground, and he's I need you to go get the big guy. She's Tony, Tony's just gonna do what Tony's I have Tony, you go get the big guy. And right away, we get Hulk and Black Widow kind of establishing their relationship front and center, something that's kind of grown over the cinematic universe. We have a really good moment with them inside Hulk's hut where he's been hiding out wherever he is. What's cool is the character has changed, right? He kind of has more freedom now that William Hurt's, General Ross kind of let him go. So he's out in public. He's being, again, the thing that he was missing, the doctor side of who Banner is, that scientific side. that, you know, it was more of a heist spy movie with Norton. Ruffalo gets to do all the science stuff, man. He's being a doctor, he's helping the sick, and he gets tricked into meeting up with Black Widow. And what's great is the way they entice each of the main characters in to get in on this. You know, they show Hulk the Tesseract appeal to his scientific nature. He hops on. Then we cut to Cap in the scene from the end of Cap where he's beating the bags right out of Avengers. Nick Fury walks in and is like, hey, we're ready, we need you. And he shows him the Tesseract and it's like, look, this is that thing that you were after way back in the day. And kind of plays to his army nature, you know, that hero nature. Like, hey, this is a mission, I need you on. Let's go. You know, and then Tony, when you know, Coulson shows up to talk to Tony's with Pepper, he's just turned on the Stark Tower, using the arc reactor, kind of clean energy, this big thing for Iron Man. And, you know, Coulson shows up and plays to him by playing into his arrogance. You know, is, hey, the Avengers Initiative, remember this thing that we told you about? Check it out. Like, this Tesseract thing is really important, and we really need you because you are the glue that holds everything. And that kind of gets Tony to come in. And it's great that they don't all meet up at once. It's kind of slow, right? We get to see Banner and Cap meet on the helicarrier, and that's just kind of a cool moment. And you know, the way they address, like, oh, it's the helicarrier, like, guys, you guys want to get inside. And it's like, yeah, what is this, a submarine? You know, Banner's like, you don't want to keep me underwater. And ends up being and the emergence of the helicarrier out of the water, so cool because you don't see it coming. You know, just such a neat sequence. Again, just visually really, really cool. They're on board, all this stuff starts to happen. Boom, Loki shows up. Now Loki's doing big, bad things. Loki shows up at this gala. He's in the process of trying to get this thing out. I believe that's going to hold the Tesseract and to harness its power to open up basically a portal that brings the Chitauri down to take over the world. And he's working with Hawkeye. Starts at this gala. Hawkeye needs an eyeball, so Loki goes down, stabs a dude in the eye with this thing that then creates his eyeball. Digitally feeds it to Hawkeye so that it opens this thing, and Hawkeye goes, gets what he needs. And then Loki comes out, and this is one of Loki's best sequences, man. He's just standing there, this whole crowd of people, and he's like, you know, kneel! Like, kneel now! Like, this thing he always wants. He just wants to rule. So what's the quintessential thing if you're ruling? Everybody kneels for you. And everybody drops, and he's like, this is your natural state. You look so good like this. And he just starts going off. And this one old man gets up and says, no, I won't kneel anymore. So I'm not going to do it. And they're in Germany, I believe. You know, and Loki's about to be like, oh, yeah, this guy, he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, no one's ever seen anyone like me. He's like, there's always people like you. And, you know, I won't kneel to someone like you. About to light him up, and Cap, boom, shield up. First action sequence, we get a Cap Loki kind of fight. And it's great, right? Because it's Cap just being Cap and Loki being Loki, and you think, you know, ScarJo's coming in with backup in the plane, and all of a sudden you hear music, like someone's hijacked the speakers. Here comes Tony flying in, lands and saves the day, because Loki's actually giving Cap a run for his money. And Iron Man shows up, shoots him, blasts him, and Loki's just like, I give up. And it's funny that none of them think twice about how easy it was for Iron Man to just come in and save the day. They all hop on a plane, and it's funny, now we've got Captain America and Iron Man in a plane. And if you remember, talking about Cap in the Iron Man movies, there's this kind of thing with guys jumping out of planes that we've been noticing in Phase 4. And while they're there, lo and behold, Thor shows up. And I love that, too, the way Thor shows up out of nowhere, because Loki is on this plane. He's found Loki, finally. He's been, you know, he's heard things. Heimdall's probably giving him a tip. Comes down to stop Loki, because Loki's doing crazy stuff. Has to steal him. So Thor's almost kind of like a bad guy at the beginning. At least Cap and Iron Man, they know of Thor, but they don't know, like, what he's capable of. Great battle sequence, man. First, Iron Man jumps out. They see Thor taking off with him, and Iron Man's like, open the thing, and like, we need a plan of attack. And Tony looks at Cap, he goes, I have a plan. Attack. Jumps out of the plane. So what's Cap got to do? Cap's got to one-up him with a little something, you know, and he's getting ready to go, and ScarJo's, you know, Black Widow's like, I don't know, Cap. You know, he's like, you know, he's dressed like, you know, he's like, those are gods. And Cap goes, "There's only one God, ma'am, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that." And then out he goes. We get this awesome scene in the forest where they're kind of all fighting each other. Iron Man gets down there first and kind of has a one-on-one with Thor. That's great because they're just kind of matching blows back and forth. Meanwhile, Loki's kind of off doing whatever. Then Cap comes in and stops that. We get this iconic shot of Thor slamming with the lightning-infused Mjolnir into the Cap's shield. Big shot. I mean, just wonderful sequencing. Like I mentioned in Thor, the way they talk in that Shakespearean way, Loki and Thor are kind of still talking like that. And Iron Man in this sequence is like, what is this? Like Shakespeare in the park, in the woods? Really funny stuff. I mean, I love the way they use humor. But then, from then on, the movie kind of takes place up in the helicarrier for a really long stretch. And that was one of the things that people drove people nuts about Star Wars recently. It was kind of like it was just this giant chase. It's like this giant car chase that doesn't really lead anywhere. And so much of the movie takes place on the ship that it's not, just kind of going wherever. That's what the helicarrier is, but the helicarrier is fascinating. They do so many things, man. I mean, it's just the thing that's great about this movie is when they're all in the same room. You finally have everybody together. They're all talking. They all start to bicker. They come up with different plans to try to figure out, where stuff is. When they're trying to, obviously, because Loki doesn't have the Tesseract on him, they're trying to figure out different stuff. We've got to locate where these things are. There's this awesome conversation between Banner and Stark that's all science. And, people are like, hey, can we, speak English when they're around them? This thing I love about Tony and Banner. They just kind of live in that scientific stuff. And listen to them talk is awesome. I also love the way Tony kind of pokes him because he's fascinated. I love the way you turn into a big green rage monster. And when they're working together, kind of zaps him, is trying to poke him. And you don't know if that has to do with the Mind Stone or not. Because everybody's around the scepter when all this bickering and stuff kind of starts happening. And a lot of focus is on the scepter. And it's fascinating, the way Tony wants Banner to learn how to control being Hulk, which he does by the end of the movie. There's just all these cool interactions on the helicarrier with everybody, and just kind of starts to form the cohesiveness of the team. Then there's a sequence, they have Loki locked up in this cage that's essentially built for Hulk. If Hulk shows up, you throw Banner in there, lock him. It's a big steel trap. They lock him in there, and he has this scene with Scarlett Johansson and Black Widow that's just marvelous, man. Black Widow's talking to him and totally is letting Loki think like he's winning. Loki's like, I know about all the red on your ledger. You think I didn't get Barton to tell me everything you've done? All this stuff. And she's starting to break. And she turns and she's crying. She's like, you're a monster. And he's like, you were the ones that brought the monster. And she turns and he goes, so Banner's your deal. That's why you're on the plane. Because everyone thought it was too easy for Loki to just kind of give up like that. And it's just such a clever scene. It's so beautiful for Black Widow. Just a moment she owns. And then, things start to get a little out of hand. Hawkeye shows up, starts blowing holes in the helicarrier. Because he's got to get Loki out of there, and that sparks Hulk. The Hulk transformation on the helicarrier is awesome, going right back to that kind of horror mode where it's a lot of shadows. He kind of chases Black Widow downstairs. While all that's going on, Cap and Iron Man have been bickering back and forth, and they totally aren't getting along. Boom. Now the helicarrier is in trouble. What do? Team up. Hey, go suit up. First it's Cap going, come on, suit guy, put on your suit, let's go. And Iron Man's like, yeah, what about you? You come out of a test tube. At least he's like, take away your suit. What are you? He's like, playboy, billionaire, philanthropist. And he's like, they're bickering back and forth, and Cap's just like, come on, let's go. Put your suit on, let's go. Let's go blows. Hawkeye hits, hey Iron Man, go get your suit on. And they have a really cool teamwork mode to kind of fix the helicarrier, where they're working on, Tony's telling things, and Cap again is English, and he's like, flip the red lever when I tell you, and that's just a cool sequence. Again, just the visuals and everything that looks so nice. And then, meanwhile, Nick Fury's like, shoot, we've got a Hulk loose, all this stuff's going on, someone get a gun on Hulk, and they start shooting Hulk, and they're like, don't get too close, because he jumps out, blows up that plane, jumping around doing Hulk things, and then he disappears and crashes into the ground. Thor ends up getting tricked by Loki. After Loki gets out during all this, Thor goes for him. And this is after, of course, Thor and Hulk. Oh my, how'd I forget that? Thor and Hulk have their first big bash up. When Hulk's chasing Black Widow, Thor shows up, and they have their first fight. And like right there, the whole concept of who's stronger, Hulk or Thor, is born right in front of our eyes. So fun to watch them fight each other. Then Hulk goes out, takes out a plane. Thor goes after Loki. It's an illusion Loki. He ends up in the Hulk Buster, like, kind of chamber. He punches it, cracks the thing. He drops out of the sky. Would have died, man. That thing was not built to crash into the earth and survive. It breaks into a billion little pieces. Hulk does this cool thing, kind of floating around, gets himself right, shoots forward with the hammer and breaks through the glass. It's just one of these things, man, like you're watching this, and it's just like all the stuff that didn't work in other movies working so well right there in this sequence in itself. You know, hey, we don't really get along. Why are we going to fight together? Oh, common enemy. Let's focus up. So much of this movie, right, there's so much good conversation, the acting by everybody. I mean, the only person really we haven't talked about, Clark Gregg, is great, and he gets killed by Loki. Again, a huge quintessential part for both Iron Man and Captain America were the deaths that they witnessed. Clark Gregg becomes that for them. It's crazy to me that they don't know that he's alive now. But the sequence when, Loki kills him is really heavy, and you get teary-eyed, man, because even though a little bit of Clark Gregg throughout, he's become someone that everyone cares about, and he has interactions with all of the heroes. And it's a really good way to kind of bring everybody together, like, we have a common enemy, let's go fight it. And there's all these sweet little awesome moments, but the big stuff for Avengers is the spectacle. And the finale is wonderful. The third act is probably the best third act in any of the movies to date, at least this point in our list. It's like a half-hour action sequence where New York City is the playground. And it's just wonderful, man. Loki opens up the portal, the Chitauri start coming through, and it's just one thing after next. I mean, there's a sequence where we're following Iron Man for a while, and then, like, he comes flying in, helps out Cap. We see Cap do something. Focus switches over to Hawkeye shooting, then you're back over with, like, oh, like, hey, Black Widow's like, give me a boost, Cap. And she runs at Cap. He throws her up onto one of the ships. She goes off. Then you fly around, you see Hulk doing Hulk things all over, and then back to Iron Man and Cap. It's just, the camera work during the New York sequence is so awesome. It's constantly moving. You're in all these different areas. So much is happening. It's probably one of the things that you'd be fearful of in a movie like this. It's like, we got so many points of focus. Where do we go? You have a sequence like that where everybody's involved, but they're all over the place. And everybody has different pair-ups, right? Cap and Iron Man pair up for a little bit. Cap and Black Widow pair up. Thor and Hulk pair up, which is fantastic. They have an awesome sequence together where they're saving everybody, and then they're just kind of standing like, yeah, and Hulk's just like, poof, oh, God, Hulk is being Hulk in the most Hulk ways possible. I mean, when he finally shows up, it's just brilliant to watch, man. It's gorgeous. Hulk jumping all over buildings. When he first shows up, and he's like, I'm always angry. He turns into Hulk. The big flying fish kind of Chitauri thing, punches it in the face. Just amazing thing after amazing thing through the entire New York sequence. And the thing that's cool, if you were diving into the TV shows and everything after this event ties directly into all the shows. The first couple seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. lead right into movies that happen following Avengers. All of the Netflix shows mention the event from New York. This event is humongous, and there's so much destruction and death, something that comes back around. And I mean, they talk about it in the movie. The cameo that we haven't mentioned in any of our videos yet pops up in the post-news reaction, where you're seeing vigils and people mourning the deaths of all these people, but everyone, like, hey, we would have all died. They saved us. So that kind of idea that builds out to Civil War, starting in Avengers, and it's acknowledged. They're not just like, hey, we destroyed all this stuff, we killed all these people died. They don't ignore it, which is nice, because it kind of felt like maybe they did. But the whole sequence just plays out, man. Just all these great little pockets of action, culminating with Tony and Loki up at Stark Tower. Like, they're trying to figure out where would he have it. And it's like, oh my gosh, he wants like towers built to the sky with his name. Oh my gosh, it's that Stark Tower. We get there, man. We get this awesome scene with Loki and Tony, where Tony's just kind of talking to him. Loki's doing his braggadocious kind of Shakespearean stuff, and Tony's like, "Yeah, man, like you're gonna have to go through us. We're called the Avengers. It's kind of a thing." He's doing all this, and the first time, I think it's the Mach. At this point, we're at like Mach. I don't know, 9, 7, or 8 or something like that. But it's so cool, man. Tony gets tossed out a window and just he has these bracelets that he puts on. Goes like this, and the suit latches onto him. Just one of the coolest ways we've seen him put on the suit to date, and they've been pretty cool before. Then Hulk shows up there, and he does the smash him like a ragdoll sequence with Loki, which comes back around later on down the road when we hit Ragnarok. That leads to a great moment. It's just, again, moment after moment after moment after moment after moment. The whole movie. It's all this spectacle. I mean, we get back on the helicarrier before we get to New York. We get Hawkeye and Black Widow fighting each other, which is cool because there's another movie named Civil War where they fight each other, and they both have very interesting interactions because obviously Hawkeye is bad, and she, when he comes to and everything's okay, she's like, had to, re-level your equilibrium. I punch you in the face really hard. It's just all these great moments just throughout the whole film. It's written, it's structured really well, it's fun, it's funny, you're laughing the whole movie. Again, humor is huge in the Marvel world. Humor is front and center and on display throughout. The humor and action just work in the Marvel movies, and this one more so than any of them. And then you get the big sacrifice, right? It's like, okay, Nick Fury, your thing's not working, we gotta drop a bomb. And Nick's like, no, our heroes can save it. And they tell Tony, there's a nuke coming your way, and he jumps, grabs it, flies it into the portal. And at this point, Black Widow is running to Selvig, who's finally come back, knock some sense into him. He's like, I built a back door. If we grab Loki's scepter, we can stop the portal. And Tony doesn't know that that's going to happen. Tony's like, don't close the portal, don't close the portal. I got to send a nuke up there. Sends the nuke up, and it's just this gorgeous spectacle, like classic moment for the Avengers. One of the best ones in the whole movie. You see Tony, boom, things explode, his lights go out, he's awake, then he passes out and just starts falling. And they see the explosion, everyone's like, yeah, all the Chitauri just start crumbling, and Cap's like, close it, and she puts it, and you see it closing, and right as it's about to disappear, Iron Man comes falling out, hits the ground, and they're afraid he's going to hit the ground, so they're trying to catch him, and Hulk comes out of nowhere. Hulk saves him, and then Hulk tosses him like a rag doll, and then Hulk wakes him up because we think he's dead. He's a solid almost minute. He doesn't move, and Hulk's just like, ah! And Iron Man wakes up. It's probably one of the best action sequences of all time in the Marvel Universe, and they have a bunch of them. And this was one of the first movies that really kind of established these super, super long ones, right? We had gotten long action sequences and all the others. This one's like double the length, and this whole movie is action and comedy and just drama, and it all culminates with just one of the most iconic Avengers sequences. The New York scene is so big, and like I said, the repercussions from New York extend throughout the entire universe. It had to be a massive spectacle, and it was. Just wonderfully done. And you set up the whole world. The whole world was been set up for that moment, and it pays off big time in Avengers. Everybody is on, Samuel Jackson is Nick Fury, Kobe Smulders is Agent Maria Hill. Like I said, Tom Hiddleston playing Loki is the Lokiest of Loki. His look is so much better, man. The longer hair, just the level of craziness in him is wonderful. There's a shawarma drop that we get in the post scene, and then the big post scene, the scene that is the marker that sets us off on our journey to Avengers Infinity War. We finally get to see Thanos. They're like, don't. They're like Deathbringers. We can't deal with them. And the Deathbringer turns around and smiles. God, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's still my number one, always and forever will. You won't be able to knock it off. Maybe Infinity War will. I can't wait to see what the Russo brothers do. But what Joss Whedon did with the first time around with this group was amazing. Absolutely love the Avengers. So, tell me all your thoughts. Please hit the comments below. Let me know how much you loved Avengers. How perfect of a culmination of all these characters was Avengers for you. If I missed anything or didn't talk about anything, hit those comments. Let me know that too. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. If there was anything you didn't like, feel free to mention it down below. But you might get some heat following because there's not too much to dislike about the Avengers. Perfect movie. For the Seaman Cinema Sit Down, lock in number 6 on the Infinity War countdown, the Avengers. We've talked about it all. For the Seaman Cinema Sit Down, I am the Seaman. I am signing off. Peace!